All right, guys, I got a good one for you this week. Here we go.
There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Time studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. Really looking forward to this episode. I got this one set up through my buddy Scott over at Eastman's, and the guest today, Kevin Estela with Fieldcraft Survival, is online. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on, man. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, you did. A lot of people screwed up. They say Estela. There's no R in there. There's no double L in there. So you got it right. Congratulations.
Sweet. Hey, I feel pretty good, man. Because usually I've got like a 90% miss rate. So getting one right every once in a while, I guess even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Damn right. Damn right.
Sweet, man. Well, I appreciate you joining me. Like I said, I really love the concept behind Fieldcraft Survival. I love the whole platform. I've been following it for a long time, and just the survival aspect and learning how to have those skills in your back pocket, especially for hunters, whether you're out west or wherever in North America. You never know when they're going to come in handy. And so let's kick it off with kind of give us a little bit of background on you and how you got involved with Fieldcraft Survival, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure thing. So I grew up in Connecticut, lifelong outdoorsman. My dad taught me how to fish. We took the hunter safety course together. We went camping and whatnot. This really influenced mine. He grew up in the Philippines during the my grandfather pretty much all of the town into the jungle, and they lived there from 41 until 45. So as a kid, did a lot.
Kevin, you kind of broke up there. Can you, right before you talked about in 41 and 45, where did you say that was?
It was in the Philippines.
Gotcha.
The Philippines. And, my grandfather moved the entire town into the jungle, and they lived there in a cave. So little Kevin, right? He wants to hear all about his dad and all the cool stuff that his dad did. Mm-hmm. So, as a kid, I did all these camping trips, and my dad taught me a bunch of skills, and I never lost the passion for that. And then what happened was, over the course of my lifetime, I started getting into more and more outdoor skills, canoeing, kayaking, scuba, skiing. And then somewhere in my early 20s, I was like, time to formalize the outdoor education and see if all the stuff that I've been doing my whole life was legit or if I was full of shit. So I started training at the Maine Primitive Skills School, Jack Mountain Bushcraft. I eventually met my second mentor, my late friend Marty, him and his wife down in North Carolina. I went to his survival school, and then next thing you know, he's inviting me up to become a survival instructor, and I taught there from 2007 to 2012. The whole time I was with Marty and Aggie in the Wilderness Learning Center. I was writing magazine articles, and I was doing product testing for a number of companies. I eventually started my own company. I wrote my book. Mike Glover, my boss over at Fieldcraft, he eventually read my book. Told his then girlfriend, he was like, hey, this is the guy that I want to do the survival stuff at Fieldcraft because he teaches modern stuff. He knows the primitive stuff. He's a bushcrafter and he likes guns. So Mike
my kind of guy.
He's like, all right, so I'm going to podcast him. We talked for like 90 minutes. We get out the podcast. We talk for another 90 minutes about both being the same age, both being 6 foot tall, half Asians, all sorts of like commonalities. And next thing you know, he offers me a job. And, I was already working as a full-time high school history teacher. But quite honestly, man, I'll tell you, the way that high school education was going, public education was going, I could not exist as a straight, half white male hunter, right-leaning teacher in that crazy woke world that public education was becoming. And I said, scratch that, I'm out of here.
Where were you
Yeah,
teaching at?
and I was teaching in Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
Don't get
Okay.
me wrong, I love my coworkers, and I love my students that I had there, but it was just the bureaucracy and the politics that was trickling down from the state and the national level that I just had enough with. So after teaching for 14 years, I joined Fieldcraft in 2021, and made the trip across country, set up shop, and became the director of survival training.
Man, that is super interesting. I had no idea you were a history teacher. So are you like a history buff?
I am a kind of a little bit of a history nerd. I had my bachelor's, my master's in American studies with a strong concentration in American history. I'm definitely not the vending machine of historical facts and whatnot, but I can definitely hold my own when it comes to explaining concepts over time. And a lot of people don't know that I was a teacher. They all assume that I have like military or law enforcement background, and I have neither. And I don't pretend that either. I'm not a loser that pretends to have this valor that I don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just enjoy being an outdoorsman, a lifelong. Like I said, a lifelong sportsman, outdoorsman, and someone who enjoys sharing the skills and the passion for the great outdoors with others.
So it's interesting, dude. Like you said, I never would have pegged you for a high school teacher, and I totally get your sentiment in terms of I don't know how anybody sensible can teach in this woke environment. I mean, my wife and I, we homeschool our kids. A lot of it is because of that reason. And so, anyways, that's a whole other podcast episode. But so you joined up with Mike Glover, and who, one thing I would say about Mike that I was really impressed with he did this like just marathon YouTube video after that school shooting down in Texas, and he was dead nuts accurate with everything I really liked what he said. I feel like he was able to articulate what the sentiment of a lot of people are that have just a reasonable, tangible, common sense outlook on those kind of events and how reactions should have taken place, especially with people with military or police, law enforcement background. He did a great job with that. What's it like working for Mike Glover, man?
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said about that Uvalde shooting video. So around the same time that Uvalde happened, one of my very, very good hunting buddies, one of my best friends back home, Dave P. I won't give his last name because he's still a reserve state trooper. He did a career as a state trooper. He responded to Sandy Hook.
Oh, so wow. Okay.
He was there, and Dave was in Heber when Mike was in Heber and I was in Heber, and I was like, hey, you guys both were in the Ranger Regiment at one point. You guys need to meet. So we all went out to lunch, and Mike was like, you need to podcast Dave. So he and I podcasted, and between the three of us, the conversations that were had about how they just blundered and how, the fear of acting and the fear of retribution, for acting too soon and like the doing something that the public would view as really made those guys freeze in place. It was just amazing timing that the three of us could talk because, I was a teacher when stuff happened. I was 25 minutes away from there. And Dave was a state trooper that responded, and Mike just had the video about Uvalde, and we just had this amazing conversation. So it was just awesome. And yes, a lot of folks come out and say, Mike was never a cop, but he got inside the cops' heads and he called them out the way you should. And there's nothing wrong with shaming people, right? Within my good group of friends, we always say shame is a great motivator, and it will keep you from doing dumb stuff. But you can also use shame to prevent future people from doing the stupid stuff that others have in the past.
Yeah.
So now on to your question, what's it like working for Mike? Mike is very high energy. Mike has 1,000,001 great ideas, and many times it's like, all right, guys, do this. And, as employees of the company, we have to try to juggle, okay, what is the priority project? And everything becomes a priority. So, we've had a lot of great successes over the years. We've had a lot of great ideas. Mike is the type where he wants to see it kind of drawn out quite literally on a piece of paper, or whiteboard, or blackboard, and then he'll get in on it. But he's also the type that just comes up with an idea and he's like, all right, Kev, like my thing last year, he goes, a Ziploc bag with whatever you can fill in it, 72 hours in the woods, just go. And I'm like, Jesus, Mike, come on, man. And then as soon as I got back from that one, which was in the high desert with triple digits over the 3 days, not just 3 days, but 72 hours, within an hour of me getting back, he told me I have to do another one. You know what I mean? Like, so Fieldcraft is a highly dynamic place to work. And there are folks, we've had a lot of people come and go, just because they're not used to that type of environment. And quite honestly, when Kevin Owens, who is one of my best friends at the company, I'm going to be working directly under him at Fieldcraft East. When I joined, Kevin was like, "Oh, I don't know if this Estela guy is gonna last," because he's a teacher and he's used to things being run a certain way. Well, I'm doing just fine. Like, I'm flourishing. I've told everyone at the company, I'm like, tell me one thing that I've done where I've screwed up or I failed in an assignment, and they're like, we can't. So
yeah,
it's a highly dynamic place to work, but it's a lot of fun, and it can be extremely stressful, but at the same time, it's very rewarding.
So for the like 1% of people that might not know what Fieldcraft Survival is, can you give us like the Genesis mission or the basic foundational goal, mission statement of what Fieldcraft Survival is and what you guys strive to teach?
Absolutely. So we are preparing good American citizens for worst case scenarios. And that worst case scenario could be a car crash. That worst case scenario could be a hunting accident. And we're providing that through various types of training, whether it's survival training, land nav training, medical training, mobility training, firearms training, resilience, whatever it may be. We're also providing equipment, and that is to load out your vehicle, load out your person, your everyday carry, and so on and so on. But then we're also educating people through multimedia and YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of our in-person trainings and things like that. So we really stand on 3 legs. We stand on training, we stand on products, and we stand on media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the training is just as a clarifier, I suppose. You guys do training like weekends or whatever events in Utah and in North Carolina, correct?
That's correct. And in many points in between, we have a lot of partner ranges, and we have a lot of instructors that are strategic not far from these partner ranges. So it's not uncommon to have training.
Whoop, I'm losing you, Kevin. I don't know if that's from my end or is that from your end?
I haven't moved at all, and I've got full bars over here, man. So I don't know.
It's probably so. I don't know if you know this, but I live on a mountain in North Idaho, and I usually have really good service. It's showing I have full bars, but it's probably my end. Sometimes it just cuts out. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Yeah, Scott Reekers was telling me that you're pretty much off the grid and you're living the life.
Well, I wouldn't say off grid. I have power now as of last year, and as of last winter we have a well, so we have running water and power. And yeah, man, we're living in a fifth wheel until we get the house built. So that looks like it's going to happen this coming spring, hopefully. So we're not off grid, but we are homesteading. We raise animals, and we've got 26 acres, and we try to live as much off the land as possible through wild game in our garden and the animals that we raise and whatnot. And so yeah, in terms of living the life, I'd say he nailed it.
What part of Idaho is that? Are you talking like way up in like north of Coeur d'Alene?
Yeah, so we're about an hour and a half north of Coeur d'Alene. We did live in Coeur d'Alene a couple years ago. Sold our place down there, and now we live up in Clark Fork, Idaho, which is if you just keep going up the main Highway 95 there, you'll hit Sandpoint and head towards Montana from there, and we're right on the Montana border.
Yeah, one of my good friends, Bill Rapier, is up in Priest River.
Oh yeah, man. So that's about 40 minutes away from me. Straight across.
You should try to connect with him. Bill is on the same mission as Fieldcraft. Bill is one of my buddies, SIOC, and Bill is a great American, former Navy SEAL, outstanding trainer. But yeah, like I said, same mission as us. We're trying to all teach civilians survival skills.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love this topic. I love the concept of, because here's the thing, and I don't want to go down some dramatic rant or anything, but my thought is the American man these days is lacking in these skills, and it is troubling. There is this weak mindset that's out there. Many of them would have no idea what to do in high intensity or traumatic or challenging situations that would put not just them but everybody else around them at risk. And there's this risk aversion that where or like a level of stress aversion. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. It just is always the point to try to avoid it with folks, and it troubles me. I'm troubled by the weak minds of today. And that's why when I look at something like Fieldcraft Survival and the mission and you and Mike Glover and others out there, and I'd love to connect with your buddy in Priest River, it gives me hope that sense of self-reliance, that sense of can-do attitude, and just the survivability and the will to survive in any environment or situation is still out there. Because I do sometimes, I don't care if you're watching TV or sometimes I travel to these big urban areas. Man, it is disappointing. It is, the societal norms of today are frightening and disappointing to me.
Here's what it boils down to. It boils down to the idea that people choose weakness way too frequently over strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before, and I've been called all different names in the book, and I'm totally fine with people not liking me because they probably don't accept the truth. And
Yeah.
I only want to speak the truth. And I'll say this: we've taught courses where we've done kill classes with chickens, and I'll say, all right, who among you is a hunter? And I'll find out which of my students has ever actually shot something or killed something. And then I can tell who has already, like, okay, if they're being honest, they've already cleaned an animal. But I say, all right, all of you, I don't need you. Those that haven't, step forward, and I have chickens. And to see people who have never cleaned an animal before realize, wow, that's what it takes to dispatch an animal and turn it into a family-sized portion. That's a powerful experience. And I've watched people with 2 fingers, kind of work their way around an animal. I'm like, get your hands dirty, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just blood,
Yeah.
But the whole idea of choosing weakness as opposed to strength, that transcends so many other aspects too, right? Like, guys will say, well, I can't carry the full-size pistol on my belt to protect my family because it's uncomfortable, so I'm going to carry this little pocket gun. And I just laugh, and I'm like, full-size man carries a non-full-size gun. And when you ask that question, they're like, oh, that hurts, because
Mm-hmm.
what can you be more capable with? It's going to be the better platform. And then when people say, oh, over the weekend, I can't wait to pig out this and that, and on Monday, I feel terrible. It's like, you made a choice.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to live with that. Like,
Yeah.
you had a fun time with that game. You didn't have to choose that weakness, but you did, as opposed to saying, all right, I'm going to live my life in moderation, because I think it's our responsibility to be ready, our responsibility to be the person who is either going to get it done or they're not going to get it done. But ideally, you're the person that others are going to rely on. And
Yeah.
we say all the time, there's a lot of maxims to live by, but we say, would you want you to come rescue you? You know what I mean? Like,
I love that question, man. That is fantastic.
Not that guy,
because that's
if you're not that guy,
if you're not that guy, then there's something wrong. Did I hear that right, or what were you going to say there? I kind of cut you off.
No, I was just going to say guy or gal, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
listen, there are some badass women that work with us
Totally.
who I would say I would let her drag me off the mountain. She totally could. You know what I mean? Like, if you've never seen Kate, who works with us at Fieldcraft East, the chick's a power lifter and like total badass. And I would totally trust her to throw me over the shoulder and run me off of a mountain. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that's part of it, is live the life that is the best for you and is the best for your family if something bad were to happen. And again, would you want the version of you right now to come and rescue you?
Yeah.
Most people can't answer that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that question, man. I'm curious because I feel like you're a philosophical guy. You're a thinker. Where does this mindset come from? Where does this thought of it's okay to be weak and it's okay to be reliant on whether it's other people or the government or some other organization, this reliance on everything and everybody else, and this acceptance of weakness, whereas it's like this acceptable thing. Like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I were that way. Does that make sense? So like, where do you have a thought as to where that comes from? Because we haven't always been this way as a society. We were a strong nation, a nation of self-reliant people that had a can-do attitude. That made it through the Great Depression no matter what. Come hell or high water, these people were moving mountains to feed their kids. And now I just feel like everybody freaking gives up on everything they pursue, whether it's hunting, whether it's a challenging job, whether it's something physical, whether it's some kind of emotional or mental thing that they need to work their way through to become a better human and a better producer in society. It's everybody has a crutch and everybody is a victim. And I don't know where it comes from because this wasn't always the case for Americans. Do you have a thought on that? There is only one call company here at the Western Huntsman, and that is Phelps Game Calls. Born out of hunting and the necessity to make the best calls on the market, Jason Phelps started this company in his garage back in 2009, and now he's got some of the finest lineup of elk calls, turkey calls, predator calls, waterfowl calls available on the market. If you guys go to the website, check it out and get what you need. And if you're in the market, when you go to checkout, use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Whether you're just getting started or have expert level calling skills, check it out at Phelps Game Calls. Get them close. Hoffman Boots is a fourth generation owned boot company, a family of shoemakers based in North Idaho. I've been sporting a pair of Hoffmans for close to a decade, and I really like the Hoffman Explorer in the 8-inch. It's the best boot out there, so check it out at hoffmanboots.com, and you'll see the whole lineup of hunting boots and lineman boots and pack boots and everything else right there on the website. And if you choose to purchase a pair of boots, make sure you use the promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 for 10% off. SKRE Gear, extreme high-performance hunting attire and gear that is scientifically tested. Complete layering systems and some of the finest merino wool products to keep you warm and comfortable, and it's all backed by a great company. What I really like about SKRE is if you go to the website, they have these bundle options like the elk bundle or the whitetail bundle or the turkey bundle, all that stuff that'll get you completely outfitted for your favorite hunt. The starter bundle is a really good deal. Make sure you check that out. They've got the VIP sizing guarantee, and so you can exchange something if it doesn't fit right at absolutely no charge to you. Guys, it's a great warranty, great company, and at checkout, as always, use promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. The Elk Collective. Folks, the best investment you can make when it comes to hunting is what's between your ears. Having elk knowledge is what separates those who succeed every once in a while versus those who notch a tag every single year. So go to the Elk Collective and sign up. There's over 150 videos in this online course to teach you everything you need to know by some of the best experts to ever enter the elk woods. It's a great program at a great price, guys. And if you use the promo code, The Western Huntsman, you're going to get $20 off of your entire course. So instead of $89, you'll get it for $69. And now that September is over and we're into October and November and all these fall hunts, if you get it now, you're going to have an entire year to go through all this course. And believe me, you're going to need it. There's so much content in there. So check it out and use the promo code, The Western Huntsman, all one word. Last but not least is Tacticam. Guys, you know I've been using Tacticam for a very long time. I really like my Tacticam 5.0s. I like my Tacticam in the wide lens, so you can get that kind of wider angle and shot. They've upgraded now. They've got the Tacticam 6.0, which is super cool. I can't wait to get mine. And also the cell cams. Don't forget about the Tacticam Reveal cell cams. They've got a bunch of different series of these things, and I've got them all over my property, so I know what's going on at all times. Whether I got a bear that's coming after my chickens, or if I have an intruder down at the driveway, or if I have a giant monster whitetail buck over in my hunting spot, I know what is going on at all times. I love my Tacticam Reveals, guys. Check it out at tacticam.com. Let's get back to the show. Here we go.
100% I do, man. And I'll tell you, this one comes from my buddy Justin Garcia. Justin's another SIOC guy, good friend of mine. He's a multiple black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, power lifter, good guy out of the Bronx. And again, another thinker. And he wrote a book called Tribalnomics. Okay, one of the best books you'll ever read about the benefit of having a true tribe. And listen, the term tribe has been bastardized over the years by radio show hosts and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's being used to market people, but a true tribe is a small collection of like-minded people on a common mission, right? Well, people have lost their tribe. People have lost a true small community that is going to hold them accountable. And because they don't have that accountability, they're allowed to skate by. And again, if you are in a tribe, then you have to pull your weight. You have to pull your fair share of the workload, or else you don't have value. And if you don't have value in an organization, then you don't have a ranking in that organization, or you don't have a status in that organization. But people now are disregarding, or I should say discarding their tribe for social acceptance on a grander scale with artificial interactions, right? Social media.
Artificial meaning like they're trying to impress people they don't even really know. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're doing something like they're wearing, like, one of my big pet peeves. I will never, ever, ever wear a professional sports jersey with some other man's name on his back.
I know.
I'm not living my life. I'm not living my life to honor that guy. If I'm going to wear a name on my back, it's my own, or it's the name of a company that that has a family name I believe in. But here's the thing, like, I don't think people understand where they should be investing their time, their energy, where they should be investing all of their emotional work, everything that they do. And I think that's the reason why it's okay for people to be weak. I think that's why they're like, well, no one's holding me accountable, or people won't see this, or I can put out onto social media what I manufacture, but in reality, I'm a total dirtbag, or I'm a loser, or whatever. Like, people edit their lives and put it out on social media. Yeah. If you were to get off of social media and be in a small community, small organization where everyone cares about everyone and says, look, you're screwing up, do your job. Well, guess what? Now that weakness is going to get thrown out the window.
This is exactly why, which, by the way, I just found this Tribalnomics book. Guys, it's for those listening, it's on Amazon. You can get it either audiobook or paperback. Tribalnomics, Laws, Leadership, and Tactics for the Tribal-Minded. I just bought it, so I'm going to listen to that tomorrow. I'll be on the road again. I think that what you're talking about there, you know, the dichotomy of that mindset is there's also this big push for this socialistic system in America where it's like, you know, let's all make the same amount and under the theory is we're all going to put in the same amount of effort. And the reality is that's never going to be the case. This is why the American system of freedom and self-reliance has provided the highest level of human comfort in the history of the world. But to sit there from these folks that act like they're victims and that they will. Have you ever seen that movie, My Cousin Vinny?
Oh yeah.
You know how what's his name? What the lawyer, Joe Pesci or Joe something? Pesci. Yeah. I like that dude. But he's in the jail talking to his clients, his nephews or whatever, and he's holding up that card. It's like a playing card, and he's talking about how the sides are real straight and everything looks perfect. It's symmetrical, but then you turn the card sideways and it's paper thin. And he's implying that the case that the prosecution has against him is paper thin like that card. And that's what I think social media does to the average person out there. And they have this card that they make look really pretty on social media. And they have this protection of isolation through social media where they feel like they could say shit to people that they couldn't say in person because they'd get punched in the mouth. and that's okay. And so, but the reality is their life is as thin as that card. It's thin like that because they don't have any confidence. They don't have any aptitude to improve themselves and their mentality and their life and pursue things that are greater than just themselves. And it's a very self-centered way to think. And gosh, man, I'm sorry. I'm going down a. I promise to try to not get too philosophical here, but it's for me, it's a problem. And I think that the solution to a lot of this are things like Fieldcraft Survival and messages from guys like you and guys like Mike Glover and other people out there that are pushing these messages of strength, not just in body, but strength in mind. And I think that that's super important.
And that's how we like to teach, right? We like to teach in universal concepts that overarch from one community to another, or one aspect of life to another. Strength is a universal, right? An example of strength in the classroom is studying ahead of time so you don't have to cheat on the test, right? Mm-hmm. An example of weakness is writing out a cheat sheet or writing on your arm or your leg. Well, guess what? That's weakness, and you're probably going to get caught, and it says something about your character.
Yeah.
Strength is something that is good for firearms, right? I would rather have a 300 Win Mag than I would a 243 if I'm going after big game. I would rather have that Magnum cartridge. Strength is universal. And I think as long as we remain true to the truths that are out there, that's how we should live. You mentioned briefly about the idea of socialism. And I think where we're headed in this country, which is really, really scary, is that we're a legal-based system now where we're providing equality of outcome as opposed to equality of opportunity, where we are changing, or we're allowing folks who they're not the best person for the job to get the job, whether it's a true job or a placement or an award or whatever, as opposed to saying who is the best for the job. We need to go back to a merit-based society. And there will be those that'll say, oh, but it's inherently racist or inherently classist or inherently sexist. That is left for nature to weed out.
Absolutely.
If one sex, and I'm not going to say there's 35 different sexes out there, if males or females want to apply, go right ahead. But I think we need to let the outcomes happen on their own, as opposed to forcing them by changing the law.
Absolutely. It works so much better when and I hate the word organic, but that organic outcome of merit it's like, the cream floats to the top. It's that concept.
Right.
And we do, man. I mean, just, you kind of nailed it. For some reason, we get these doofuses in public office that, like, how are we electing them as leaders? How does this even happen? I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. I don't understand how that even happens. And that's a whole other rant and a whole other podcast episode in itself. But I'm trying to stay on topic, man. But this is good stuff. So I want to get back to the actual course of Fieldcraft Survival real quick.
Yes.
You mentioned, I think, I don't even know if we were recording yet. You guys have the 2-day training, right? The survival training?
That's my favorite course. One of my favorite courses to teach, because I get the overnight component with the students, and there are so many lessons that are learned around the fire that are unscripted. They just happen. It's a conversation, and it's like, okay, I'll show you how to do X, Y, Z, and it's kind of like an added bonus. Plus, it gives people a chance to shake out their gear and test it in a mostly controlled environment, which is only one night, right? And we always keep the fire going all night.
So what can somebody that attends that course, what kind of expectation can they have out of that course in terms of what they're going to come away with?
They're going to, in that 2-day survival class, learn how to utilize tools better than they knew how to before. We focus a lot on how to use your knife properly, how to build fires, how to fashion equipment in the great outdoors with cordage, how to build shelters, how to signal for help. All of it is done with minimal kit, because I don't want people investing their nest egg on all this equipment that they don't know how to use yet until they realize what they actually need. And what blows people's minds is how much you can accomplish with limited resources as long as you learn how to be resourceful. So in that 2-day class, I'm showing students like, okay, here's the knife that I use. And oh yeah, that's the one that you brought, but watch what I can do with a smaller one. Watch how I can show you how to hold it and carve differently. Here's how I can build fire under terrible environmental conditions. This is how you can use your ferro rod in the middle of the night. Like, I show the students how to do more with just a few things. Then I say, all right, now at the very end, here's some of the other stuff that you may want to get. You did it with this. Here's the better option. And when they learn how to do things the hard way, then they start experiencing the great outdoors a lot easier, because they're packing with that knowledge of, man, I don't want to go through that again. This is what I'm going to carry. And it builds, instead of a hobby, it builds a lifestyle where people are leaving their homes with the gear that they need in their pockets, as opposed to, oh, I'm just going to throw that in the box of stuff that I'll take this weekend. It's like, no, you're going to start carrying that stuff every day, but it doesn't weigh you down if you understand what to carry and how to carry it.
Obviously this is a hunting podcast, right? What do you have an opinion as to what maybe you've seen out there, because you've been an outdoorsman all your life? What are hunters, like the general average hunter out there, what are they lacking the most in terms of survival skills or just knowledge about the outdoors, would you say, that they should really focus on and learn?
Land navigation, 100%.
Land nav?
Land nav, 100%. I've known a lot of hunters who have gotten turned around following blood trails back east. I've known a lot of hunters that cannot terrain associate. Everyone wants to rely on the GPS these days, right? GPS or cell phone nav programs, as opposed to getting a good topo map and understanding how to terrain associate, learning how to, even doing something as simple as orienting a map north. A lot of guys don't know how to do that.
As simple as what? Sorry, just a little cut out there.
Yeah, as orienting a map.
Oh,
right?
Gotcha.
So laying the map. Yeah, laying the map so it lays exactly how the real physical features in the real world lay, as opposed to or in relation to the printed version. A lot of hunters don't understand the concept of like an emergency azimuth, right? So you get turned around. Which way would you travel to the nearest road? A lot of guys don't even ask that question.
Man, azimuth, that's a word I haven't heard in a long time, man. Since I was in the Marines. that's pretty fantastic. Explain to people what an azimuth is.
Yeah, so azimuth and bearing are interchangeable. Azimuth is a military term. We use it at Fieldcraft, but I also say bearing in my classes. I try to get the students to know how to read coordinates, both in MGRS, which is Military Grid Reference System, as well as UTM, Universal Transverse Mercator. So if they can do one, they can do the other. So the azimuth is 360 degrees of direction. And again, you might be walking through the woods, you get lost, and it's like, damn, which way is it to Main Street? I'm just coming up with the name of the road here.
Yeah.
And Main Street might be westerly. And you might not have the greatest, base plate compass out there, but you have those stupid little button compasses. That's enough to get you westerly to Main Street. So I think general land nav is something that's sorely missing with hunters.
Because yeah, you're right, man. I think a lot of people, they look at, well, hey, I've got Onyx on my phone, and Onyx is a great piece of technology, but the danger in that is the word technology. It's not as reliant as some people think. Like I'm not talking smack about it, because I use it all the time. I use Onyx and my phone GPS and all that kind of stuff every time I go hunting. But I know how to get out because I do know land nav fairly well. I could probably use a refresher, man. I would, just talking about that, I'd love to take your course. I geek out about that stuff. There's a few things I geek out about, and it's like wildlife management, survival skills like what you're talking about, and history, American history. I love those kind of those three topics, and so it's stuff I could talk about all day long. How often do you do those courses, by the way?
I teach land nav at least 4 times a year. And it's going to be more next year because I'm going to be traveling to different locations. I always tell people this with land nav, right? And this is why the listener should geek out. I always say, how cool would it be to have a superpower where you could travel through the woods in the middle of the night, counting your paces, following your compass bearings, and you could pop out exactly where you want where you're in the middle of nowhere, but you hit the spot that you wanted to get to because you know distance and direction, you know how to use your tool. That in a the crazy Red Dawn scenario, you could in theory create a bug out route through the deep woods following just pacing and a compass, and you could find your way to whatever stash of goodies that you want. Like I tell people, like, if you want to know like true Minuteman skills, patriot skills that the colonists used during the American Revolution, learn land nav, right? Because you become so capable, you can easily give people distances and directions to come to you, and you're not following trails, right? You're not following lines of drift that could be a danger point. So I always tell people, like, it's limitless what you can do with land nav, and it gives you a superpower. So yeah, we teach that at least 4 or 5 times a year, and there's going to be more next year. And the courses are getting more and more popular because people are realizing the value of it.
Oh, totally. Especially in today, like, dude, the way the world is today, this would be invaluable. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't think the world is going to burn down tomorrow. However, like, this is a tumultuous time we live in. I mean, everything from our economy to our political leaders to the war in Ukraine to shenanigans coming out of China and North Korea. You never know what's going to happen. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, and people are relying on a system that has been running, but we know that foreign governments have been trying to hack our systems. And if they can hack Sony over a stupid movie that was about Kim Jong-un, right, which is actually pretty damn funny. But if they can hack Sony, who's saying that they can't hack Garmin, or they can't hack one of these companies that has all of the capability to provide us GPS technology? So that grid could go down in a national security event. That grid could go down in a hacking event. But what doesn't go down is your map and compass.
Folks, I have never been great at sitting down and doing a bunch of research to find the right tag in the right state for the right species. That's why I rely on Eastman's Tag Hub. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet, but Eastman's Tag Hub takes a trusted hunting research you rely on and have for years to a powerful new digital platform. You could jump in there and find the right hunting units in 11 different states and try to find the perfect tag to fit your budget and your goals. It's a great way to cut out all that external research that just gives you a headache, and if you're anything like me, you just don't have the patience for it. Let them do the work for you. And the cool part about Eastman's Tag Hub is it's a monthly payment option. You don't have to pay some big fee to get into it. It starts at like $7 a month. And it gives you access to everything, to include access to the world-famous Eastman's Hunting Journal magazines. It's a great deal, guys. Check it out at taghub.eastmans.com. And do you feel like there is, where I'm going with this actually is people putting a level of importance or prioritization on the wrong things. Like when COVID first hit, you had these idiots piling fucking toilet paper in their basement by thousands of rolls. Like, why? Why toilet paper of all things? Like as if this is some am I going to say this right? Apocalyptic event. I think I said that right? It's a tongue twister. It's not like it was like that, but of all things, it was. I would say, I'm 41 years old, and of all things in my life, I've been to a couple of different wars. I've lived in a lot of different states. I've seen a lot of different things and political leaderships and turmoil in the world. It was one of those events where it was like there was this super heaviness of what is unknown in the future, and I was planning on various different things to protect my family and make sure we were safe. And the last thing on my mind was toilet paper. And that's what people are stocking up on versus knowing land nav. Hey, was that you that did that land nav video on YouTube? Did you do one of those?
I have done one of those on YouTube for Fieldcraft. how to be more accurate with your compass.
Okay, that's the one. I watched that. I don't know. That was probably last spring or something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, gotcha. So you guys have those kind of resources. You have the land nav courses, and then you have the 2-day survival courses. Am I missing anything else?
Oh my gosh, we do mobility courses where you're learning how to use your off-road vehicle and set it up, and learn things like how to wagon wheel for perimeter security. We run all the shooting classes, so there's pistol, rifle, and precision long rifle, all the medical courses. And then on top of that, we're doing some of these like onesie twosies, where it's like Go Rigs and Coffee, where you just come in and you kind of meet the community and you just share common beverages, common coffee. And then we're doing these other things like in North Carolina, when I get there, we're going to do a Remington 870 armorer class and hopefully another Glock course to get armor certification. So we're trying to build this community of self-reliant people. But we also want that community to rely on one another. It's like, hey, there's no reason why you can't have a doctor or a medic in your neighborhood. There's no reason why you can't have someone who's very skilled with, say, small engine repair. We want to bring all these people together because we find that the common thread is that idea of, I'm not going to trust someone to do a job that I should be able to do on my own.
Yeah.
And we've seen the government fail over and over and over in providing even the basic services. I mean, after Hurricane Katrina, they couldn't even give up water correctly.
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No kidding, man.
So yeah. I don't trust the government to help me.
I had to go to Houston for a work thing. Like, it was 13 or 14 months after the hurricane, and it was still a shit show down there. Like, that's what you said about the government response. It's disappointing, to say the least. Turning this back to, we've been going here for quite a while here. I want to turn this back to kind of the hunting topic because the biggest thing is what I wanted people to get out of this episode was what Fieldcraft Survival is, the importance of prioritizing things that you guys teach, because I didn't know you guys did that mobility course. That sounds pretty badass. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do all of them, man. I'll just be honest with you. That stuff is awesome. Do you guys do any kind of online, like an e-course kind of thing with that stuff, or is it all just in person?
So we've done webinars in the past. It's usually on our platform called Locals. It's not our platform, but we use it. So we have a paid wall there. Mike does have a Patreon account. And we have done some digital training in the past. But a lot of it is best done in person. We do a weekly free seminar called Responsible Citizen, where, the students are learning. They come to our headquarters. They learn how to be a trained observer. They learn a little bit of first aid. They learn some survival skills. So that's been a weekly program for over a year now. We're really just trying to offer a lot of different options. And people are always like, well, how come you don't have anything here? And it's like, well, for us to go there, it requires, a lot of logistics. It's easier for people to come to us. And here's the other thing. There are so many schools that say, this is where we train, right? Like, I've been to Sig Sauer Academy probably 20 something times, and to go there, I have to go there. They don't come to me, right? So I think that just shows a level of willingness too. Like, listen, guys, this is where we're going to do it. This is where we can provide the best services. We already have everything in place. You need to be willing to come to us. And that's why we're trying to branch out.
Yeah.
One of the classes talking about hunting, which kind of gives an idea of how we benefit the hunter. We did a hunter prep class last year in Utah, which was well attended, and we combined elements of long range shooting with ballistics. And we told all the guys were like, okay, we're going to chronograph your rifles and we're going to run it through a ballistic program, so you'll know exactly how much terminal velocity you have, and how many foot-pounds of energy you have. We're going to do a KIMS game where you're going to do an observation exercise in the field so you can utilize your binoculars, your spotting scope. We're going to go over some common medical emergencies like impaling yourself on a broadhead, right? Falling out of a tree stand if you're an East Coast hunter.
Yeah.
We did all of this stuff, and then we wrapped up the course with a game of hunting rifle horse, where we're in a 270 range, and we're like, okay, you have to call your shot, and you can shoot at steel at whatever distance, but are you going to go standing, kneeling, prone? Or are you going to go, and it was one of the best classes I've ever taught. So even though the company has military roots, we are absolutely trying to adapt what we teach to different audiences and show that all these skills are universal, right? Like the skills that you need to be an effective marksman to put rounds down on paper or over in a theater of war, same skills you're going to apply as a hunter, so they're all universal, and they're all things that we used to know, getting back to that point.
Yep.
But society says, oh, guns are bad, don't learn those,
Right.
So we're saying, come learn with the tools that made this country.
Yeah. Man, that is awesome. I'm like super stoked that we're talking, and you guys have all this put together. This is what we need. This is the kind of stuff we need. I think it's gonna, like you were talking about building communities and stuff, and this is the kind of community building that needs to take place to fend off some of this weak-minded mentality that has saturated our society. And I love it, man. I can't say enough good stuff about it, man. I really appreciate you guys doing this. And I think it's important for hunters. A lot of us, my show is about Western hunting. We talk a lot about going into the backcountry. We talk a lot about, hunting elk and hunting bear, hunting mule deer in the high country, subalpine kind of terrain. Different kind of environments, whether like the West is very famous for heading out and it's 70 degrees, but you wake up in the morning and there's a foot of snow on the ground. What do? Things that I think a lot of people aren't really prepared for, and so I think that kind of meshing these two things together like this is super critical, and I think that's why Eastman's was really excited to kind of work with you guys. I know they came down and did that event in Heber with you guys this last summer, and that kind of stuff is just critical, and it's that community building that's going to make us all better, and so just thanks for what you guys do. It's fantastic.
Anytime, man. And just adding on to that idea of weakness and strength, continuing with this universal. One of my biggest problems I have with the hunting community is the fact that we self-sabotage, which to me is the definition of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Here we're trying to promote hunting. And I don't care if you go out with a muzzle loader. I don't care if you go out with a bow and arrow. I don't care if you go out with a crossbow. I don't care if you go out with an air rifle, a 22, a shotgun, a centerfire rifle, a pistol. Doesn't matter. You're hunting. And I think it's really weak when people are like, oh, you did this, but you didn't do that. Well,
yep.
You're spreading weakness, man. Why does that even matter? Can't you just be proud of someone for going out there? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a pandemic in our own community.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Why don't we promote all the hunting aspects and be like, dude, good job. Yeah. Just say good job. That's strong. As opposed to, yeah, but you didn't,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Kevin, that's a huge topic on my show is, I'm trying to do all this work to kind of unify hunters, because we have, as hunters, we have this enemy collectively together that is much greater and a much bigger threat than whether or not somebody's a bow hunter versus a rifle hunter. And that's the anti-hunting movement. And the folks that are just so anti reality, they are opposed to our lifestyle, and they're opposed to what we do, and they don't understand the depths of our primal needs and our nature to pursue these wild animals, and they don't understand our passion for the conservation side of it. And meanwhile, we're fighting over whether or not a 6.5 Creedmoor is big enough to kill an elk, and if you use one, you're an idiot. And it goes back to what we were talking about with this social media thing. It's okay to say something because you're sitting on a couch 1,000 miles away from the dude you're talking shit about, that you would never say that if you were sitting in a bar having a beer together sharing hunting stories. That contention wouldn't exist. So social media, I think, there's a lot of good that comes out of it, but there's a lot of that negativity that feeds into the hunting society. And talking about self-sabotaging, you have that aspect of it, and then you have these I'm trying to watch my mouth, man. I don't know if you're okay with me. I know it's my show, but I want to be respectful. I cuss a lot. I am a Marine.
Listen, I was a teacher for years, and I had to bite my tongue. And when I got to Fieldcraft, they were like, you can say what you need to say. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
there's
good.
more, man.
All right. Well, talking about self-sabotaging, you've got these dickheads out there stealing antlers I've got there's a lot of thievery going on lately, and we were talking Aaron Snyder, somebody stole his bull. My buddy Adam from Stuck in the Rut, somebody stole his bull out of Billings, Montana. What are your thoughts on that? Is that kind of what you were getting at with the self-sabotaging stuff?
Oh man. So I don't even know if the people that are stealing those animals are even hunters. I was talking to someone
True,
over at
yeah.
Eastman's earlier today, and we were saying how, Aaron lives not far from the reservation. And listen, Native Americans, they got a shitty deal years and years ago. And the reservations, if you've ever traveled through them, they're not exactly the greatest places in the world. And there are some natives who are very anti illegal natives. And what I mean by illegal natives, I'm talking about natives that engage in illegal activities, whether they are, stealing, they're selling things that they shouldn't be selling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some Native Americans are like, look, we're trying to move forward and you guys are holding us back. So there's a theory that because Aaron lives near there, that potentially it's never going to be found because it's on the res. And listen, I am all for Native American rights, but if you're a Native American and you stole something, you're a terrible Native American. I don't mind saying that.
It's just human. Thievery is thievery, no matter if you're Native American, Asian, white, black, purple, pink, gay, straight. It doesn't matter. Human is human.
That's right. Right. Unless you're a crazy liberal.
Well, I think I've weeded out all the crazy liberals that listen to this show. I've offended all of them.
I don't think anyone caught my last line. So.
Oh, did you cut out, man? I'm sorry. For some reason, we're just having a heck of a time with the phone service.
I just said that the crazy liberals that are out there, they're subhuman. So
yes, correct. I love it.
Yeah. So Aaron lost his bull, and I mean, how much time, effort, and money did he have to put into getting that? And someone just went off and stole it. Like, in a way, it's the equivalent of. And it's not the same, obviously. And there are going to be people who are like, oh my God, he's making the comparison. And I am. It's like stolen valor. Okay. Obviously, if you steal valor, we're talking life and death on a battlefield, but you're still trying to steal the honor of saying, hey, I shot this.
Yeah.
I killed this animal. This is mine. You're claiming someone else's deed as your own. That makes you a total D-bag. You know what I mean?
Man, I haven't ever put that together like that. That's a great analysis. That's a great analogy. There's a lot of similarities between that and stolen valor because for those of you that don't know, stolen valor is when somebody pretends to be like a veteran or something. Like there was that guy that dressed up as a Marine, but he was wearing his ribbons like totally. I mean, they weren't even applicable to the Marine Corps, but for some reason they want to pretend like they're either a veteran or whatever. That's stolen valor. And what you're saying is a pretty good analogy, man. Somebody's probably going to put that rack on their wall and act like they're the ones that shot it, or they're going to sell it to somebody who's going to do that. It's bullshit.
And like I said, I'm not trying to make the perfect comparison between a guy that served his country and one who's pretending who did, and then someone who hunted and didn't. But I'm just saying, like, it's the idea that you're trying to take someone else's deed, right? Yeah. And that's what it boils down to. You're trying to take someone else's accomplishment and claim that it's your own, and that drives me absolutely bonkers.
Me too.
As a writer, right? As a writer, if someone were to take my writing and say, "Oh, I came up with this idea. This is my idea. I wrote this," I would lose my shit. I would go knock on someone's door because that's my time that I put in there. Those are my thoughts. Those are the lessons and the knowledge that I learned by bleeding and sweating and crying out in the field and learning from giants.
Yeah.
And for someone to say that that's theirs, that would drive me crazy. So it's stealing someone's deed. It makes you, again, subhuman.
And to top it off, that what makes it even worse and it really shouldn't make it worse, but it does kind of make it worse. Like Aaron Snyder, I know he pisses a lot of people off or whatever, but he's one of the most authentic dudes in the hunting community. Like he's just an authentic guy. Like you get what you're gonna get with Aaron. There's no phoniness. There's no fakeness. He's just a I am who I am kind of dude. And he's super honest, and I really respect the guy. He's a badass hunter. He worked his butt off to get that elk. And same thing with my buddy Adam over at Stuck in the Rut. Those guys at Stuck in the Rut worked their tails off, and that was Adam's biggest bull to date. I believe that's what they said, because I was helping share that image too. To date, and they pull into some hotel, and within hours, the bull is gone out of the back of the truck. And
unreal.
It is so unreal. I just can't imagine the mentality that somebody has to go through and steal somebody's bull. It's one thing. Okay, there's a car somebody left running, and somebody else is down on their luck, and they see it and they take it because they think they can get money on it or whatever. That's still thievery. But there's a slight level of justification if you're looking at it from, some poverty-stricken, desperate individual. You could see where that thought would come from. But to steal a bull, elk, out of the back of somebody's truck, you're a douchebag, man. That is a douchebag move.
And here's the thing with Aaron, right? Aaron and I have known each other for a very, very long time. I've spent a night at his house or 2 nights at his house in Colorado when he lived there. I know his wife.
Oh, nice.
I've been a sponsored Kafaru outdoorsman for years, right? Angie that works at Kafaru is a sweetheart. Love her to death. Shout out to you, Angie. But Aaron, he stopped by Fieldcraft a couple weeks ago, and I swung right by. I dropped everything. I gave him a big bear hug, asked him how he's doing, and he was, telling me about his company and this and that. And here's you hit the nail on the head with Aaron. That guy, yeah, he's an intimidating dude. He's basically like a modern day caveman that just kills shit, right?
That's a great way to put it.
And I know that Aaron has gotten mad at people outside of his company, right? People who have stolen his designs or his images, or whatever. But I've talked to people that work for the company. We've hosted them. I'm friends with a lot of people. They're like, no, Aaron has never yelled at anyone at the company. It's a family at Kafaru. If this came down to someone saying, look, I'm stealing that bull because my family's hungry, I would put money on it. If you knocked on Aaron's door and said, hey, man, I know you got a bull. My family's starving. Can I have food? Aaron would give you food.
Absolutely.
Like that's the type of person he
Absolutely,
is. So it drives me nuts that, something bad like that happened to a good individual. Like if you told me right now, if Aaron called me right now and was like, dude, I'm broken down 5 hours from you. I need a hand. I'm jumping in my car.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the type of friend, that's the type of person Aaron is to me. And the fact that someone could do that to a good person that I'm friends with, that bothers me to no end.
Me too, man. Me too. It makes my blood boil. And I it's been said. You can ask my wife. I can be an ornery bugger, but like this just makes me super ornery. It just is the type of thievery. I know the work it takes to get a bull elk down. And furthermore, I know the work that somebody like Aaron puts into it. Like this dude doesn't, no offense to anybody that pays to hunt on a private ranch or something like that, or a guided hunt or a road hunt or something like that. No offense to it, because I as long as it's legal, I am open to every type of hunting out there, and I don't disparage any style, method of take, any of that, as long as it's legal, right? But that's not Aaron. Aaron goes into the backcountry and puts in miles and just about kills himself to get these animals. And he gets the ones that nobody else can get. And
with a struggle.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like that's even an added component to it. It's like who does that, man? I mean, the dude is just a freaking animal. Like you said, he's a caveman. And I don't know where I was going with this. I kind of lost my train of thought there building that up. But the point is that's what it was. The amount of work that it takes to get a bull like that, and the way that Aaron goes about doing it, it's just such a blow to hear somebody ripped him off. You know what I mean? It's just such a bull. Like everybody knows that braggadocious hunter that's kind of an asshole and thinks he's a shit. And he goes out and gets a bull, and if somebody stole his bull out of the back of his truck because he was just showing it off at the, whatever, it's still a blow, and it's still thievery, and it still shouldn't happen. But for some reason there's some added components and pain and a level of blow, if you will, that's just making it worse with Aaron, a person like Aaron, and anybody else that's authentic like that and puts that much time and work and effort into it. It's just it's just maddening.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, well, dude, is there anything else like when we're talking about kind of meshing the hunting space with the survival space and Fieldcraft Survival and within the hunting community that you feel is problematic out there and you want to talk about? Does that make sense? How I ask that?
100%. Yeah, 100%. So here's my challenge to everyone that's listening. Look at the world from different perspectives. Look at what you're trying to accomplish from different perspectives. You're looking at the world right now, if you're listening to this, most likely from the hunting perspective. You're probably shopping at stores that sell all hunting equipment, and you probably see the granola hippie REI backpacker walking through, and you're like, oh, look at this guy, right? He's carrying a folding knife instead of a fixed blade, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, why don't you look at how that guy is able to stay out in the cold longer with the gear that he's using? And I think that's ultimately what we need to do as a community is we need to adopt what's best from multiple perspectives, right? Maybe there's a different product that is being sold to the backpacking community, or maybe there's a bushcraft item from years ago that it's old technology, but it's still relevant technology that we should be carrying. So when you're looking at what you carry and how you accomplish your mission or your goal, how you build your fire, what kind of tarp configuration you use or whatever, don't just look at it from one set of eyes. Don't look at it from the filter of being a hunter. Say, all right, well, what would the backpacker do? What would the bushcrafter do? What would the, the guy that just goes to the store and says, hey, or give me whatever, like what would that guy buy? Because maybe that's going to give you the best answer, the best solution, and give you the best success in the great outdoors, as opposed to just being narrow-minded and laser focused through just one filter.
Man, Kevin, the one of the things that I love the most about doing this show is there's always like a nugget I can get out of each guest that comes on. I learn something. I love learning, and I learn. I have like key takeaways I get out of each episode. It's interesting you say that, man, because I'll just be honest with you. I'm guilty of that. I have been. In fact, I am guilty to a point of which I have used the term granola hippie. And I have said, what in the hell is that granola hippie doing out here? This is no play. This is man's country. And so, but he was out there and he was doing great. In fact, he wasn't just out there. The dude was out there thriving. And so,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of that, at least from my perspective, is it's like, I think a lot of this is ego driven. And for me, I look at that and it's like, you know what? You're not a backcountry hunter. You're not out here trying to kill a 700-pound, animal with giant spears on his head kind of thing. And you're just a granola hippie. But maybe if I look deep inside of myself, I'm looking at that and there might be like a hint of jealousy that somebody else is out there enjoying that. And there's no reason for that. Is that kind of what you're saying? And what we could take away in terms of learning from people that come at this from, because I talk smack sometimes about like, as hunters, the public land access issues and wildlife management issues that we talk about a lot on this show, much of it is funded from hunting and hunting programs and hunting organizations. It's not funded by the bird watcher. And I think I relate that, the bird watcher, to what you were talking about, the granola REI guy. And you're right, man. I'm wrong. That's a key takeaway for me for this episode. I'm wrong to do that. I'm not sure if I'm going to totally stop using those terms because I think they're funny. But you're right.
Listen, it's okay to be an equal opportunity hater, right? You can make fun of everyone. The minute that you create like a class of people that you're not going to make fun of, well, that becomes a sacred cow, right? So
yeah.
Look, I make fun of the granola hippie just as much as I can make fun of the hunter. I will say that I probably won't have the same Bernie Sanders sticker on the back of my car like that granola hippie guy, but chances are that granola hippie guy probably spent a lot of money on beer that I hope he'll share one with me, as long as it's not some like crazy skunky IPA. Give me like a good porter and I'm happy.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
that dude's spending like 18 or 20 bucks on a six pack when I'm rolling around with whatever cheap swill I could find. So I think that's important, man. Like you just gotta have a respect for folks, right? Respect people until they give you a reason not to. Keep your guard up until they give you a reason to put it up even more. And like I said, learn from everyone. There's a problem in the training community where people say, well, I've already done that. What could I learn from you? Well, I guarantee you probably didn't get the same method of instruction. You probably didn't get the same delivery. There's always something you can learn, and you always learn something new when you have new perspective and you have experience, right? I have a background in martial arts, and I could teach the same lesson as a white belt or to a white belt. And then if I get that person up to a purple belt or whatever, they're going to see that lesson, but they'll see it from a new set of eyes. So it's important to see the world from, again, the new set of eyes, multiple perspectives, because then you have a better understanding of the total picture. And that kind of helps you, again, formulate the best solution to the problems that you have.
I love that. That's a great concept, man. I think we would, if 100% of Americans took 10% of that and applied it to their lives, this would be a better place. And so that's great stuff, dude. I know I'm keeping you over an hour, man. I really appreciate, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to do this again in the future if you're up for it.
I don't know, man. You offended me with that granola hippie comment. I don't know if I could.
I mean, what if I sent you? I could send you a nice pair of Birkenstocks and a 6-pack of what was the beer you said you drank?
I'm a good porter fan.
Okay.
Right, no IPAs.
Yeah, no IPAs.
If it doesn't smell like patchouli when it gets to my door, I don't want it. Right? It's got to smell a little patchouli, and maybe throw in like some hemp and a couple beads, maybe a crystal or two.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, I have a couple questions here for you. So first of all, you're living in Utah County in Utah right now, and that's going to change here shortly. Do you fly fish the Provo rivers?
I have one of my good buddies, Mike O'Brien, fly fish with me Utah. He is my fly fishing guru out here that I kind of use. And I fish the Provo in the middle of winter, and I fish it in the summer, and it's amazing. It's a great fish.
It is amazing. That's one of my rivers that I miss the most about when I left Utah. It's a great fishery, but we probably shouldn't say that on the show in case it's actually, you know what, we should. Like the Provo River, whether it's the middle or the lower, like it's not a secret, folks. I said it on the show, Kevin, probably like a year ago. I mentioned the Provo River and fly fishing it and whatnot, and somebody sent me a nasty email about how I shouldn't give away spots like that. And I don't normally, but come on. It's like the best fishery in the state of Utah. It's not a freaking secret, folks. It's not some hidden secret. Everybody's there.
And it's like 30 miles long. So what are you giving away?
Exactly.
It's somewhere on the Provo, like go find it.
One of the biggest brown trout I ever caught was right behind the dam of Jordanelle. And I mean, right behind the dam. And I nailed this sucker. And it was funny because I was working for a company where they would send me to houses to do like sales calls, right? And so I was in between my appointments, and the river was catch and release. And so I was by myself, and this is before like smartphones got super, good at taking pictures or whatever. So I'm trying to figure out how to take these selfies holding this giant brown trout. I mean, we're talking, it was like a 28-inch brown trout out of La Provo. It was a monster, and I'm like, this fish is getting all over my shirt. I've got it all over my hands and everything, and I kind of rinsed my hands off, realized what time it was, jumped in my truck, and ran back down into like Provo or Orem or whatever, and ran to my sales call. And I got in the house and realized I smelled like fish. Like, I mean, you would have thought I had been rolling in a fish factory. And the customer finally, I could see the look on their face. They're like, dude, this guy smells like freaking fish. What in the hell's going on with this guy? And finally, I just fessed up. I'm like, folks, I really apologize about the smell, but I was just fishing on the river, and I caught a really nice fish, and I ended up showing him the pictures on it was like the iPhone 1 or something like that. It was one of the first ones. And so always a funny story about the Provo River.
Man, yeah, it's a great river. There's so many secret spots on it. I floated it before. And there are other spots, up in the mountains. I always tell people, like, yeah, you can go to the Provo, right? Or you can throw on a backpack, grab a fly rod or grab a spinning rod, and you're going to hike your ass off, but you'll get to a spot where there's very little pressure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you gotta search for it, but you'll find them, and they're backpack fishing out here is incredible.
Well, I tell you what, man, if you ever find yourself in North Idaho, hit me
Mm-hmm.
up because I've got the secret honey holes, and we could do it. We could either drive up to the river, or there's other ones I know where we could backpack in. So just hit me up. Tell
Sounds like a plan.
everybody. Tell everybody where they can find Fieldcraft Survival and your Instagram and anything else you want people to know.
Yeah, sure. So you guys can find my book, 101 Skills You Need to Survive in the Woods. It's on Amazon. I don't know if it's in stock right now. It sold out not too long ago, but we also have it on the Fieldcraft Survival website.
Wait,
So that's
it's 101
101 Skills You Need to Survive in the Woods.
Okay, I'm going to check this real quick because I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah. So you can get signed copies on the Fieldcraft Survival website. If you guys want to follow Fieldcraft on Instagram, it's at Fieldcraft Survival. You can also look up at Fieldcraft Training. That's the training branch of our company located in North Carolina. You can find me on Instagram at Estela Wild Ed. That's my old company, Estela Wilderness Education. So it's ESTELA Wild Ed, ED. You guys can email me. Right, you can email me if you like the show, Estela@fieldcraftsurvival.com. I always reply to emails. I'm pretty open to talking to pretty much anyone. So if you ask me a dissertation question, you might get a short response because I don't have time to answer those. But I'm happy to give my opinion. You might even get me when I'm driving, and I might do an audio message back to you just because it's easier than typing everything out and it's quicker. But guys, I'll tell you, you can find us all over, right? We're going to be coming to a lot of different places around the country. We're on YouTube. Just look up Fieldcraft Survival. You'll probably find something that we've made.
And your podcast, right? That's Fieldcraft Survival. That's the one I listen to?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your book, is that available audiobook? I always like to clarify that.
So, yeah, it is. A guy named Matthew Boston was the narrator. They wouldn't let me narrate it. They said, you're not a voice-trained actor. And the sad thing is the first guy that they had read the book or a sample of his voice, I heard it, and the guy sounded like a clown. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, that's not me. So at least this guy Matthew Boston has a little bass in his voice. It sounds like his nuts have dropped. And I was like, this is the guy. I'm good with him. But the audiobook people like, especially the psychology component of it, the mindset component. But really the manuscript version, the paper version, it opens and it lays flat. So when you're training the skills, the book is going to lay open for you. People really like the way it's laid out, and I'm super proud of it.
That's fantastic. I'm actually going to get both the audio and the paperback because I'm a nerd when it comes to books. I like to have it on my shelf, and I feel like when you're talking about like survival skills, it's good to have the paperback version because you can actually go through and make notes and you really, you bookmark certain pages because it's a book that you'll read and then you'll always go back and reference. And so the paperback I think is super important, and it looks like as of right now, there are there's paperbacks available on Amazon. And you said you had them on the Fieldcraft Survival website too?
Yeah, the ones on the website, the Fieldcraft site, are signed. Amazon, they're not signed. It's the same book. And honestly, it doesn't matter if you buy it one place or the other. I'm just happy that you're buying it. And I always tell people, like, if you want to say thank you, buy an extra copy and donate it to your local library for distribution, which doesn't make my publisher happy. It doesn't make my publisher happy because it's like, you're giving away the book for free, but all this knowledge, man, it's all for free anyway. Like, I want people to share these skills, and there should be no boundary or barrier for how you acquire them. If you can't afford the book, then go to the library and take it out for free. I'm happy that you're learning.
Okay. Sweet, man. I love it. I just bought your book on Audible, and then I'm going to order the paperback off the website because I want your John Henry, man. That'll be sweet. You. Well, thanks again for joining me. Hang out here just for a second after we hang up or wrap it up here, and I'll get a few more details from you, and we'll go from there, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at the Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on